Hit the button.
All right. Take two.
Oh.
Oh?
Yeah.
Let me stop.
Plug the sponsor thing in afterward. Sorry.
I'm sorry. It won't shut up. Say that again?
You gonna plug the sponsor stuff in afterward?
Unless somebody wants to do it.
Okay. We don't have to do it live. I was just wondering.
Yeah, let's do it
Just
live like
making sure.
last time. And
Okay, we
you
won't do the middle one live. I don't want to do the middle one live again. We'll just
Your
plug last one's
recording is a backup still, right?
Yeah, it's still going.
Okay. All right, let's try this again.
Welcome to the Android Police Podcast, your weekly audio source for all things Android. It is Thursday, June 11th, 2015. I'm your host, Matthew Smith.
I'm David Ruddick.
I'm Cameron Somerson.
I'm Ryan Whitwam.
And my name is Bob Severance. Welcome to the show
Thanks,
for the
David.
second time.
Thanks, David. You just completely fooled us into thinking that our problems were still going on.
Glad to be of
I'm
service.
sure they are.
Yeah, well.
They are. They have a huge delay, I think.
No, actually, it seems okay. The latency seems all right now.
Well, that's good. Let's use that to our advantage, and let's get started with some Code Google. All right, so an interesting little item popped up on the official Android homepage this week, namely today, actually. Google would now like to help you find and select from the various many flagship phones that are out there. So they've added a phone suggestions tool. And Ryan, you've got a chance to fool around with it. What are your thoughts?
I find it quite interesting that they don't just recommend the Nexus 6 all the time. They actually have quite a variety of phones. The more I play with it, the more weird things start popping up. So the way it works, you go there, and when you launch the tool, there are 12 different categories of sort of uses for a phone that you can select from. You can pick as many as you want. It's things like taking photos, being productive, expressing my style, and watching videos, that kind of stuff. After you have picked 3 and sort of indicated what features and how important they are, then it will show you phones, and then you can sort of browse through and see what things it suggests. And it's mostly flagship stuff. It recommends the Galaxy S6 a lot, the G4, the M9, but it's sort of very general. It's just based on what the spec sheet says. So like if you say taking photos is very important, it will show you the M9 because it has a 20 megapixel camera, even though, as we know, the camera is actually not very good at all. So you can go and look at that, and sometimes it just throws weird stuff. There's like the Kyocera Duraforce or whatever phone pops up sometimes. There's the Desire Eye shows up sometimes.
Wait, Kyocera still makes phones?
They do, yeah, mostly ruggedized things.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, you can go and look, and maybe it'll point you in the right direction. But you should not probably use this as sort of the end-all, be-all way to decide what phone to buy.
I generally find a good way to decide which phone you want is to go try them.
Or you can read the reviews on a website like Android Police.
Well, yeah, that'll certainly help too.
Or just read the reviews until we tell you.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I did.
How's that working out?
It's all right, except for the idle battery time.
Yeah.
On my S6. So.
It's pretty terrible, right? Like
It
I don't
is,
know
it
why
is.
it's so bad.
Like, I don't even notice it because I have a wireless charger at my desk at work. I've got a wireless charger in my car. I've got, I've got wireless chargers everywhere. So, like, when I set my phone down, it's charging. But, honestly, I'm probably just making it worse. So. Anyways, let's move on to Android M. Of course, the running theme of the last couple shows have been Android M feature spotlights. We got a few more to cover this week, starting off with Cam and some battery saver functionality new this week. What's going on there?
You can enable and disable battery saver by voice. So you can just shout it out, "Okay, Google, enable battery saver mode," and it will give you some sort of little message that it's opening battery saver settings, but it doesn't actually open the settings. It just enables it, so it's still kind of wonky. And then it does the same thing when you tell it to disable. But it's cool that you can do it by voice.
Yeah. Also, we've seen addition of formal sort of MIDI in games.
Meaty.
MIDI.
I like the way you said that, Matt. Meaty.
MIDI. It's a
MIDI
MIDI
is actually the correct way to pronounce it, but most people just say MIDI. Yeah, MIDI is a thing that's been around for a long time, actually over 30 or about 30 years. If you're unfamiliar with what MIDI is, it's an interface that allows you to connect musical instruments together, mostly keyboards, that sort of thing, and it translates the volume, it translates the notes that you're playing and everything like that into digital data. And the cool thing was, back in the day, you could hook up to different modules and play your keyboard and get better sounds and things like that, and also do sequencing, where you can record to these really small files that just store data, your musical compositions, and then play them back on other sound modules and that sort of thing. Well, Android has supported MIDI. In fact, some applications have had MIDI support, but since there wasn't formal support in the operating system, it meant that the developers had to go in and write support for MIDI that actually did all that translation of the instrument data to computer data or to phone data or tablet data that could be used by the application. And as anybody knows who plays an instrument, is you get latency because the driver that the developer wrote, the time it takes them to translate that data actually means that when you play something like a note on a keyboard, there's a delay. And just imagine if you hit a note and you have a delay for even a couple milliseconds or a couple hundred milliseconds, that's a noticeable enough delay to set your timing and everything off. Everything just gets all out of whack. So you can't really perform live and into your device or anything like that. Well, they've added formal or core MIDI support to the operating system, so now that data is going to be able to be translated automatically by Android. A lot of these devices that are USB, MIDI originally came with these big DIN plug connectors, 5-pin connectors, but over the years, computer manufacturers realized this was a good way to get musical data into a digital format onto computers as well, so they've adopted it and created a USB class compliant solution of translation of MIDI as well. And now by adding this into the operating system of Android, we're going to be able to have much better devices for music creation, potentially live music performance. In addition to MIDI support, they improved just the overall signal processing of audio, added much higher sample rates, which means you've got a lot richer audio. Better than CD quality audio can be recorded into your device now. So, something that a main reason why a lot of people use Apple devices is because they've excelled in this area for a long time. They have the core MIDI support and high audio quality. Now this is one less thing that's going to differentiate Apple from Android devices. So it's very, very exciting for musicians out there.
Excellent.
Next.
Ooh.
Just delay. Don't worry.
Okay. You guys were going robotic on us.
All right, you guys still sound fine, so let's keep plugging.
Okay.
I got an update as well, made it a little bit more, accurate. So what's new there, David?
Oh boy. I'm not even sure what you said, but I do see the topic sheet. So the stock calculator app has basically had a back-end overhaul. Back-end as in like the back-end problems we are having with the show tonight. So the stock calculator app used to use floating point arithmetic for calculations, and if you know anything about computer math, which I know like a tiny bit about, floating point isn't ideal for for if you want practical calculations of numbers that are like human readable and that are actually accurate every time, unless you go through a lot of painstaking work making sure the system's going to put out exactly the right answer. So, for example, if you subtracted, like, I think it was 57.3 minus 46.2, Android gave you like a repeating decimal in the calculator for the answer, just because floating point arithmetic. So they rewrote the app basically from the ground up. It looks the same. There are a few new functions, but it shouldn't do this weird stuff anymore, hopefully. So you won't get repeating decimals, or like if you put 2 to the 34th and then equals and then subtract 2 to the 34th in parentheses, it would give you like 812, which doesn't make any sense. So that should stop. There are some new features. You've got inverse, sine, cosine, and tangent. You've got degree and radian mode in the calculator now. There is a way you can tap and hold back and forth on the decimal place in your result to adjust the number of decimals that you want the result to show, which is handy. And I think that's pretty much it for new features. But yeah, the back end of the calculator is what has seen major changes.
All right. Good deal. Also, David, we saw a little bit of a change in how we validate APKs for their security sakes, right?
Yes. So this is, pretty... I'm not going to pretend to fully understand it myself, but the idea is basically that when you install an APK on an Android device, that it does a validation check, and if the manifest.tf, I want to say, I forget the extension, it's in the meta-inf folder of the app, and it's just a list of files that are all in the application and a list of their and a set of like encrypted signatures. And so it puts up those signatures against all of the files in the app and then checks them against each other and says, okay, this file should be here, this file should be here, yada, yada, yada. And if they all pass, then the app installs. Previously, if you like put a new file in an app package that without re-signing it, and thus giving it a new key, you would get an Apk Validation Fail, showing the application had been tampered with without being re-signed. This doesn't prevent piracy in any way, by the way. This is not designed for piracy. It's basically designed to stop distribution of malicious apps that have been tampered with, but still have the original signing key of the original author. But what they didn't do is that if you had an APK and you had this manifest TF file of all the files that were in it, and then you removed files from the APK, it didn't actually check if the files in the manifest, if they weren't in the APK at validation time, it wasn't actually checking to see if files were missing. It was only checking to see if files were modified or if new ones had been added. So theoretically, you could distribute an APK with the original signature of the app author while removing files from the APK, and it wouldn't fail validation, assuming you didn't remove something that just straight up broke the app, which, I mean, probably would happen in a lot of cases potentially, but now it does that, and so people won't be able to distribute signed APKs or with the original signature that have files missing. Not that Google provided any example of how this has happened in the wild.
All right, good deal. And the last little feature spotlight to touch on this week is the native 4K video output support that was added in Android M. So, David, what's going on there?
Yeah, so I mean, this still all depends on if your device has a method to output video physically from the device, which not every Android phone is going to, and even of the phones that do won't necessarily support 4K, like the Nexus 6, which has not Slim Port, it's the other one, I forget. Maybe it is Slim Port. But basically, a lot of phones can output 1080p video, but not as many can do 4K yet. Some can. But now in Android M, there's going to be a native API call for outputting 4K to an external display. The system UI won't scale to 4K unless the phone itself or tablet is a 4K device, but developers can use objects like videos, an object like a video, and have those play back at native resolution like 4K. Now, without having to develop their own solution or use a manufacturer-specific solution or messy things like that. But whether that's going to really make a big difference in the very near term, I mean, 4K video content still isn't that common. But it's good to know that this solution is now baked into Android itself.
Right on. All right, so over on the site this week, we were lucky enough to get an exclusive early look at Hangouts 4.0, and Liam wrote up a little bit about that. Unfortunately, Liam's not with us, so David, what are your thoughts? Have you gotten a chance to play around with it?
I've used it a little bit. It is pretty different. It's not any faster, at least the version that we're using. But it does look nicer. There's a Hangout, or a Wear app, which there wasn't before, which is very cool. The Wear app, it seems like it's going to support voice commands, but they don't really work right yet. The Wear app is really nice, though. Actually, I like the Wear app way better than I like the new Hangouts phone/tablet app, though I haven't tried it on a tablet yet. So yeah, if you go look at the post, there are stickers and there are emoji and there's status messages, and it's becoming a full-fledged chat client now. So it's Hangouts is moving up in the world, and this is the material redesign I think everybody wanted. It definitely does look nicer. It looks more in line with the Messenger client that Google publishes now a little bit. So there's a little more consistency.
All right. Cool deal. So I guess we should look forward to seeing that. Maybe not the perfect Hangouts, the end result we're looking for, but at least a nice step in the right direction. Cool. All right. So we did have an app update that actually rolled out this week. The camera app from Google, version 2.5, was released. Added some new features and other goodies in there, right, Ryan?
Yeah, so the important thing here is Google is working on this thing called Smart Burst that looks really interesting. So this we found this in an APK teardown. So usual disclaimer, like this, is at some point in the future, or maybe it won't happen at all. But it looks like there's some pieces of it there now. The idea is that you will be able to have the phone take burst shots that it will then automatically choose from to find the best images. So, on most phones, if you do burst, you just hold down the capture button and it shoots a bunch of pictures. This one will just sort of, you'll hit the button, it'll take some pictures, and then it'll say, here are the good ones. And it uses various criteria like the number of faces that it sees, face illumination, framing, if people's eyes are open or not, and then you can take these photos and then save the ones that you want. So that's a pretty cool thing that hopefully will happen in the not-too-distant future. Right now it's definitely incomplete in the app, so there will have to be at least one more update before it could magically start working.
All right, good deal. Now, last little bit in the Code Google was actually news not from Google at all, but this time around from Cadillac. Finally getting some Android Auto love over there, right, David?
Yeah, so Chevrolet announced Android Auto last month, and Cadillac, another GM brand, just announced it last week. So Cadillac announced their entire 2016 lineup will have Android Auto at some point. None of them are going to initially ship with it that I know of. The SRX might, because there's going to be a new SRX next year, which is their little crossover SUV thing. But all of the other ones, they'll ship with CarPlay and then look at Android Auto via dealer-installed update, probably. Cadillac told me tentatively mid-model year. So I would say end of 2015, early 2016, depending on the car, because they haven't finished testing it yet. So that's all the Cadillac models, and the system that will do Android Auto on those models, there's only one car that doesn't have it standard, and that is the base model ATS, which is their entry-level sedan and coupe. But you can get the Cadillac Q system on there that will get Android Auto for an additional fee. And the whole Q system is getting a bit of a revamp this year, so it should be better because Cadillac Q's gotten a lot of crap in the media for not being very good, which, as far as I've read, it isn't. So hopefully it'll be better. It'll obviously better with Android Auto.
Well, and of course, for the sounds of it, it sounds like you're probably going to have to, if you buy a vehicle when this gets released, you're going to have to take it back into the dealership to get it added.
Yes, you will. I talked to Chevrolet about it, and it'd be great if we could release something over the air, but we don't know, or send people a flash drive or let them download something, but we don't know if we want to do that, and we're not sure how we'd want to do it. And I assume the same thing. It's probably even less so a concern for Cadillac, because honestly, the average Cadillac owner is probably going to the dealer for all of their service needs anyways, and wants nothing to do with the technical side.
Yeah, well, I'm just wondering if you happen to take it in there, are they going to update it, or is it something you have to specifically take it in and say, can you?
I'm going to guess there'll be the way these things usually. There's a service bulletin that goes out, and your VIN is included in a database for the service bulletin, and you bring your car in for an oil change, and let's say the service bulletin's been out for a month. They're going to look up your VIN and say, oh, there's a service bulletin to upgrade your car. We'll do that while it's in for the oil change. That's usually how it works, but obviously car dealers vary in their immense shittiness, so you may have to ask depending on where you bought your car.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if they're not being proactive about it in any way, shape, or form, then I don't think that's going to really help the adoption. But, I don't know.
I doubt too many Cadillac owners are super interested anyways, just, based on the market demographics.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the Rumor Roundup.
It's time for the Rumor Roundup.
All right, so news this week coming out about a Nest Cam that might be on its way coming very soon, and that is not a Nest Cameron Summerson, unfortunately. There's only one of those. Actually, that's kind of good. That's probably a good thing. But anyways, the announcement's coming up on June 17th, and we got a little bit of a sneak peek this week, right, Cam?
Yeah, so there was a leak of the Nest Cam, which for those who may not know, Nest bought Drop Cam. I don't know, I guess it was last year or something, so this looks a lot like a Drop Cam. If you've never seen a Drop Cam, well, go look at the Nest Cam and you'll have a really good idea of what a Drop Cam looks like. It looks like the base is a little bit different. It's sort of a slimmer, kind of sleeker, more modern looking design. Looks like it is easier to pivot back and forth. Anyway, so it said it's supposed to record in 1080p. But it's not sure. We're not sure if that's standalone, as in you can record directly to a hard drive with that, or if it's Dropcam has this subscription service, this monitoring thing that it does. So you may have to have that before it'll do recording in 1080p. Who knows? The app is also going to get a facelift, so now it will cover everything, all Nest products, and that includes Dropcam and Dropcam Pro, and of course Nest Protect thermostat and the upcoming Nest Cam. So yeah, that's just some stuff coming from Nest. We will see. We'll have full details, of course, June 17th. I guess that's like a week from today, or a week from yesterday?
Yeah, not too far off.
Yeah, a week from yesterday. So we'll have the skinny then.
All right, moving on to rumors about Razer and some potential interest in buying out the micro gaming console company Ouya, which, I don't know, it seems like we haven't talked about them in forever, Kim.
Yeah, so this rumor comes from TechCrunch. We don't have anything solid at all. It's just kind of a, hey, here's what we found out sort of thing. But yeah, Razer is looking at buying Ouya for some reason, which none of us will never know or understand.
Yeah, certainly not to make more Ouya hardware. So don't.
Yeah,
certainly not to make money. I
honestly don't. I don't know. I don't understand. I mean, because Ouya just did the Forge or whatever, their Android TV, which has not been very popular.
It has been speculated that they might just want to keep other people from getting Ouya, but
yeah, that's what Cody was saying when we were talking about it. I believe that because maybe they want to rebrand their consoles.
Look, who would buy Ouya and get anything worthwhile out of it?
Yeah,
I mean, it's a product that did horribly in the market. I mean, what are you going to make from that would be like a problem for Razer competition?
I think the main thing, I still think my theory is that they want the store and checkout back end from Ouya because Razer doesn't want to lose that 30% cut to Google on games they sell.
Well, look, this is what Ouya thought it was going to do, and it didn't work. People don't want to buy the same things multiple times.
Nope, exactly.
I mean, let's be honest. Razer doesn't understand a goddamn thing about ecosystem. Like they're the completely other side of things they do. They're trying to do this VR thing, and I haven't heard a single word about that since CES either. Razer is a company that likes to say a lot of big things and then not actually deliver on many of them.
All right, well, that doesn't sound promising at all.
Nope.
No. All right, let's kick off the hot sheet.
Gee.
All right, so the AT&T announcement came out this week, starting the Galaxy S6 Active, which I think we all kind of had a pretty good idea it was coming. Not exactly my favorite looking device, but well, it's here, it's rugged, and it's available. Right?
Yeah, AT&T will take lots of your money for it right now. So it's basically the equivalent of $700. You can break that out on a next plan, or you can do a non-contract thing, or pay full price, or whatever. I mean, it's a Galaxy S6 in a more rugged case, water resistant. It has physical navigation buttons at the bottom on the front, and it's thicker. So instead of having the camera hump, the camera is flush with the back, and it has a 3,500 milliamp hour battery.
So it has a bigger battery, which is like, why not in the I guess they wanted to make the regular one so
yeah,
thin?
I mean, this one is
Like-
this one is quite a bit thicker.
Like,
I mean, it's sort of the point of being a chunky phone, I would say.
I'm like punching my head that like they didn't give the regular Galaxy S6 a battery that big because. And do we know it's an Exynos processor? Like, I don't
say, but I'm
see
pretty
that
sure.
anywhere.
I mean, it has to be. I can't imagine that they would
I
move to something
wouldn't be
else.
surprised if they went with a different processor for this one if it's cheaper to build. Because I guess they don't say on the AT&T website just yet. Although it could have been leaked already that it has an Exynos. I don't know. But it is butt ugly. But it's a ruggedized phone, so I guess it's supposed to be.
Yeah, they kind of all are unattractive devices, but
Well, at least they made it camo so you can't see it.
yeah, I actually don't hate the white camo pattern on the back. Like, that's not bad, but I mean, the overall device is not attractive.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's bad, I don't know. Oh, oh, never mind, I'm looking at the wrong phone. I was about to say, what it does say? Oh, no, it doesn't. I was looking at the Galaxy S5 Active, which for some reason Samsung still puts at the very top of their page.
Of course.
Yeah, no, they don't have any of the exact specs listed yet, so that's unfortunate.
I'll be interested to see what that runs.
All right, now the next device that was announced this week is the latest in Tegra K1 technology, and strangely enough, this is not the first time that this type of product has been talked about on the show. It is, in fact, an oven. It's a smart oven running the Tegra K1 processor, and I don't know, what's the deal with smart ovens, David?
I don't know, but I love every single thing about this product, from the Tegra processor to the fact that it uses carbon fiber heating elements to preheat in just 4 minutes to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and the fact that it costs $3,000 MSRP for a countertop oven. I mean, it's $1,500 if you pre-order. $3,000 is just the retail suggested price, which it will never sell for because it's an appliance and no appliance sells for MSRP. But it has a Tegra K1. They don't actually go about explaining why it has such a powerful processor, because I'm guessing there is legitimately no reason a Snapdragon 400 couldn't do this just as well.
It does stream HD video live from inside the oven to your phone.
Inside the oven.
Inside the oven. There's a camera in the oven.
Holy Pinterest.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. This thing looks awesome, especially with the accompanying app. The oven is its own scale, so it weighs your food while it's in the oven. It has a built-in temperature probe. It has 2 white LEDs along with that camera, so your food's fully illuminated if you want to look at it while it's in the oven. Presumably, you'll be able to look at it on your phone remotely while your food's cooking. I mean, come on, this is super cool. And the fact that it heats so quickly is just awesome. But it's completely ridiculous. A Tegra oven, like the jokes, they write themselves. Like it's free Tegra jokes for everybody this week. It's so good. I love this product.
I don't think I've ever heard David say he loves a product so much.
I know, and all it took was a smart oven running a Tegra K1.
I love it because it's just so absurd. Like
all it took was an oven you can play Portal on.
It's so ridiculous that I can't dislike it.
You know what I would love if when this oven comes out, if somebody could like root it and install stock Android and just start running some games on the little touch screen that it has. That would be great.
That's a wonderful idea, I think.
Yeah, the oven doesn't even have like a real screen. It has a screen, but it's like not super high resolution. It's not doing any insane 3D rendering.
Yeah,
It's
got
just
buttons.
a little screen with some buttons. Yeah.
Alrighty then. But interestingly enough, the Sony Xperia Z4 launched in Japan, and it apparently is also an oven.
Yeah, you don't need this $3,000 smart oven. You can spend like $800 on the Japanese Z4 and just cook your food with that, because apparently it gets really crazy, stupid hot. So people have been complaining on the Twitters as they do, and NTT Docomo, the Japanese carrier, has actually put warning signs out in their stores. Apparently, there's a picture of one of them in the article. Allegedly, it reads that. So it lists 3 phones at the top, one of which is the Z4. These all run a Snapdragon 810. So there's a Sharp Aquos phone, and the Z4, and another one, and it just says, if you have one of these phones, you should consider turning it off while it is charging. Make regular backups, and maybe just let it be off for a little bit every now and then, just so it can cool off, because these phones get really, really hot. So that's really sad for Qualcomm. Supposedly the Z4, which I guess is being called the Z3 Plus, not in Japan, it's supposed to be running a newer revision of the Snapdragon 810 that was supposed to not be as hot, but it seems like it's maybe even more hot. The temperatures being reported for it are the high 60s Celsius, so that's like 150.
That's on the board, for the record, not on the case.
On the board, yeah, on the board, yeah. It's not that hot on the outside of the phone.
That would physically burn you.
Yeah, no, but I mean, it's the chips are very, very toasty, and it's just it seems like it is a legitimate problem. When this started popping up a few months before the chip started actually showing on phones, I wouldn't have thought it would be this obvious, but it seems like it really is a problematic chip. So yeah, Snapdragon 810 in this phone, really stupid hot.
Yeah, and the temperature for the case, or the battery temperature, was 42.7 degrees Celsius in the screenshot there, which is about as hot as the One M9 gets, too. So, seems legit to me, and I'm guessing Sony also is being very, or I would say liberal in their not throttling of the chip, because HTC basically doesn't throttle it at all during some activities, and so that's why it gets so damn hot.
Well, upshot though, the Z4 is water resistant, so you can just dunk it underwater.
Oh man, that's a good idea.
You can just water cool your phone.
Just walk around with a fishbowl.
Yeah, you just get one of those backpacks with the water bottle thing built in. You just put your phone in that, and then take it out when you need to use it.
That's a good idea.
Alrighty then. Sounds like we've got this thing figured out.
Yeah, you're welcome, Qualcomm.
Unfortunately, I don't think we have a lot of listenership in Japan, so I don't know if anybody's going to catch on to that.
No.
All right, so last little bit of hot sheet news before we get to device updates is the Huawei Watch, which I think for a couple of months now has been the one that a lot of people have been looking forward to, just because of the style and the way it looks, and rumors about prices and all kinds of stuff, but it sounds like we're just going to have to wait a little bit longer, right, Ryan?
Yeah, so allegedly the Huawei Watch has been pushed back to late Q3 or early Q4 of this year, so that would be maybe September or October. And Huawei's never actually said when the device is supposed to come out, so this is all just sort of like, internally they've decided they're going to release it later than they originally thought, and we don't have any sort of reason for this. It might have something to do with maybe they're trying to release the device in China, but it's Android Wear, so it is heavily reliant on Google services, which don't work in China. So that might be part of the problem, or there might just be manufacturing issues with it. We don't know. But at some point later this year, maybe the Huawei Watch will come out. And it looks neat because it's a modestly sized round smartwatch that looks like a watch.
Yeah, I mean, to me it's one of two things. One, Huawei thought they could mass manufacture a watch-like device and went, oh shit, this is really hard. We're going to need a few more months before we get this down. or the whole Google and China thing, because I'm going to guess they probably got a pretty good reception from Chinese customers, maybe wanting this thing. They're a hugely popular brand in China, and without Google services in China, the watch is pretty much useless as anything but like basic notifications and telling the time. So there have been rumors for quite a while now that this could be the year that the Play Store and Google Apps come to China. So maybe they're just waiting for that. Maybe they're going to wait for Android M and then the Play Store coming to China, and then a perfect storm of sales success may emerge for them or something. Who knows?
Much sales success. All right, so let's move on to device updates, starting off with the LG G Flex 2 upgraded to Android 5.1.1, which, well, started rolling out last week, but nobody really noticed. So this week it's rolling out a little bit more in full force, limited release last week, and it includes Android 5.1.1, of course, but also some improved heads-up notifications and interruption settings.
If you have an LG G Pad 7.0, on Verizon, you are getting your Lollipop 5.0.2 over-the-air update, but probably don't hold your breath on a 5.1 update.
Bummer. And HTC pushed out an update to the HTC One M9 International edition this week with some improvements for camera and battery life. So if you've got one of those devices, make sure you are checking for updates at least 7 or 8 times a second until you get it, and then enjoy. All right, let's move on to product reviews.
It's time for product reviews. We have several products to review, so I'm not going to say anything stupid. Go!
Okay, so I guess I'm going first. And so this week we posted the Android Auto review. I already had an initial impression post up. So this is the full thing. So you should go and read it. It is long. There's a video. The gist of it is that if you're not buying a car right now, you should probably not be too concerned with getting Android Auto, because the head units you have to choose from right now are stupidly expensive. The cheapest Pioneer head unit that has Android Auto is over $500 on Amazon right now. Probably more expensive elsewhere, and then to get it installed, that's another $200 or $300 probably. I mean, an Android Auto is neat. It does a lot of cool things. It doesn't do as many things as a lot of older head units did, but it's sort of designed to not be as distracting. So that's sort of that's the justification for the limited functionality, which most of the time is fine. I think the way it does maps navigation is really cool. If you're at a stop, it pulls up. It has a search bar on maps. You can tap that, and you get a full keyboard, and you can type things in. But when you're moving, that search box goes away, and you can only use voice. So that's cool. I wish they used that same sort of rationale for other things. Like, you can't access your full contact list in the car by touch at all. You only have favorites and recent calls and such, and then you can do voice dial for everything else. I mean, if you're stopped, I wish that it would just give you the entire contact list. And it's the same thing with music. Like, if you're using Google Play Music, you get a limited selection of things and then voice search. You can't access your entire music library, even if you're stopped, and I feel like that would make a whole lot of sense. But, I mean, if you are, an Android user and you want an in-car system that works with your phone, this is it. And it's cool. It's just not even remotely worth the amount of money that you would have to pay right now to add it to an existing car.
Not to mention, the Pioneer head units in general, they kind of suck. I mean, their products are pretty middle of the road.
Yeah, the UI is not very good. Like, if you have to venture into Pioneer's software, it's not going to be a good time. I almost never go into it, like, unless I need to change a setting, because it's impossible to find your way around.
Which that to me makes it the even bigger waste of money, is you're paying for a ton of stuff you're never going to use in the first place. I mean, even like Pioneer's head units that are almost this exact same thing without Android Auto are almost as expensive. I mean, you're paying a lot of money just because this is a very niche sort of thing that they can charge a lot of money for, because people that buy head units, are willing to pay that. It's just it's a market that's diminishing over time as cars just sort of stop supporting these easily replaceable double DIN units. Yeah, exactly. That's that's the best way to put it. The market is vanishing, and so the margins have to be higher to support the business. And at that point, you're just not. There's no way you can say you're getting value for money on a product like this.
Yeah, I mean, if you absolutely have to have one of these, like, just buy the cheapest one. It's got a resistive screen, but I mean, even the capacitive screen on the expensive one isn't that great. So, I mean, just, whatever. You don't need multi-touch on your car, really, I guess.
The more pragmatic option, sell your car, lease a Hyundai Sonata for 24 months, and that's how you can get Android Auto in a way that is a little less sucky if you really want to have it.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that I am impressed that Android Auto just sort of, when you plug a phone in, it just knows to boot up. I was worried that it was going to be like weird getting different phones to play nicely, but it seems just fine.
Yeah, it sounds like the experience, when it works, it works. I mean, the one thing I heard that was scary was that there were a couple outlets, I think The Verge said, they tested it on a Hyundai Sonata with a 1M9, and they were doing navigation and playing music, and the phone was still losing battery when it was plugged into the car. And that's what's going to vary on some of these. I don't know what kind of amperage the Pioneer puts out.
Yeah, that'll vary from one car to the next, I would assume. I mean, I just have the third party, the head unit installed in a Honda Civic, and in my car, every phone that I tested was able to gain battery life while it was plugged in. Even I used the M9 for a while, and it charged up while I had it plugged in, navigating and listening to music. So it'll probably vary based on how much power the car's USB puts out.
Yeah, I mean, I guess at that point, no. If your phone does wireless charging, you can do a wireless charging pad and then hook USB into it, which is dumb.
I wonder how the phone. I mean, it probably would default to one or the other.
Probably switch. Yeah, you're right. I didn't think about that.
Actually,
that's not an option either.
I should actually test this. I have a wireless charger for my car. I should plug that in and then plug it into Android Auto and see see if it varies from one phone to the next. See if they select.
I bet it defaults to the USB because it's generally going to think the USB is a faster charge. But yeah, the thing when The Verge said that about the Hyundai, I was like, oh, I hope that's not true. I'm going to ask Hyundai for a car to do it myself and see what it's like. But that's going to be a problem across the different automakers if the USB ports aren't putting out the power to charge enough. Because that's kind of a deal breaker, honestly. Unless if you're doing it for a long period of time. If you're doing it for like 30 minutes at a time, it's probably not as bad.
Well, but I mean, if you have a long commute at the end of the day and like you've been using your phone and you're already kind of low on battery, like you don't want to have to like get in the car and then like have your phone die halfway home.
Yeah, that would be extremely annoying and defeat most of the purpose of the system.
Yeah. Yeah, but like you said, hey, when it works, it's pretty neat, and there are some bugs, but overall, I mean, it doesn't do like a ton of things, so there's not really that much to be buggy.
All right, good deal. All right, so David, you had a review this week on your Asus Zenfone 2. So what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, so I've got both of the Zenphones here, the $200 one, $300 one. The differences are as follows. The processor on the $300 one is clocked 500 megahertz faster per core. It has 64 gigabytes of storage versus 16, and the storage that's in it is of a higher quality. It is faster storage, significantly, about twice as fast on random write. And then about 3 times as fast on sequential write, so it's much faster. And the RAM obviously gets some more. You get 4 gigabytes as opposed to 2, and that is pretty much all of the differences. The screen on it is great. I love the screen on it, apart from not being bright enough. It's not good in the sun, but otherwise it's a good IPS panel. Asus has generally been good about sourcing good IPS screens for its devices. They're relatively quick. The $300 one is a little faster. Anybody who's telling you it's as fast as a Galaxy S6 is a liar. They just aren't paying attention. There are some significant differences there. The GPU in these phones, though, is way belies the price, especially the $200 one. The GPU in one of these is more than twice as fast as a Snapdragon 615's GPU, and that's not an exaggeration. It really is more than twice as fast because it's Power VR GPU, not an Intel one. Makes you wonder why Intel chose Power VR. But the phone itself has a big 5.5-inch screen. The battery life on Wi-Fi is really good. The battery life on LTE is not. And again, Intel modem, so that's what it is. I would say the battery life is definitely subpar if you're only on mobile data. On Wi-Fi, though, it's very good. Standby life seems pretty good. ASUS's Zen UI layer, I don't like. It's very ham-fisted in some ways, and the amount of crap ASUS puts on there is absurd. There's literally a button in the settings called Zen UI System Update, and it just goes to the Play Store and lists like all 40 of the ASUS apps that are installed on your phone already out of the box, and makes you a little bit nauseous. Some people don't mind. You can disable all of those apps for the most part. There are some anti-malware like cleanup apps preloaded too, and you can disable those. There's some stupid game store preloaded. You can disable that. That's how they make this phone so cheap in big part. But the phone itself is very likable, I think. It has the camera's mediocre, but it's like I think it's the same sensor as the One M9, but not quite as good in terms of how it's tuned, I don't think. You get some really crappy shots out of the camera, but sometimes you get really good ones too. Overall, it's a very likable phone. I don't think the $300 version is worth it, but everybody in the comments seems to disagree with me on that. Surprise, because I guess everybody wants the extra storage, and that's worth it to them. But the phone does have an SD card slot, and I think the $200 one's like the bargain of the year. For $200, that is easily the most powerful smartphone on the market. It's easily the most powerful smartphone on the market for probably, well, not $250 since the OnePlus One dropped now, but it's definitely the most powerful phone for $200 or under. There's no competition that comes even close for that.
So would you get that, or would you pay like $50 more and get an Idol 3? Pretend the OnePlus One doesn't exist.
The Idol 3 supports Band 12 LTE for T-Mobile, but the Idol 3's internal storage is slow as dirt, and that is being kind. The phone itself isn't very fast. The screen on the Idol 3 is brighter and a little better. The viewing angles aren't quite as good. I love the look of the Idol 3, though. It is by far the nicer phone in terms of design.
It's a handsome phone.
Yeah, it is a very handsome phone, and the front-facing speakers are killer on it compared to the Zenfone speaker, which is utter crap. But, I mean, not many people care about that. The Idol's battery life is also very good. I have that phone lasts and lasts and lasts and lasts. That's probably my favorite part of it. So if I had to live with it, I would probably get the Alcatel. I would probably want to throw it sometimes because it's really slow. But at the same time, it feels a little more reliable, I guess. And Alcatel seems to really want to update the software on it, but I don't know if I trust them.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't buy either if it was me, because I don't consider cheap phones a wise investment.
Yeah.
But for people in the market, I would say if you just care about specs, get the Zen phone. If you care about the phone being handsome, having good front-facing speakers, being light and slim and good battery life, I would get the Idol. Or if you're on T-Mobile, I'd get the Idol because it has Band 12 LTE.
All right. Sounds good. Now let's move on. Cam, you had a couple of blue devices to talk about?
Yeah, the Life 1 and the Life 8 XL. So basically the Life 1 was announced at CES. It's the first phone Blue is released this year with a Snapdragon processor, so that's pretty interesting. And because it's got a Snapdragon processor, it also has LTE. So that's it's the first one they've released this year, as far as I know, with LTE, unless there was one that I didn't get my hands on before. But it's a Snapdragon 410, so it's not super fast. Honestly, it's kind of slow. It only has a gig of RAM. Again, that's kind of a downer. 2,420 milliamp battery, and it ships with Lollipop. I'm sorry, it ships with KitKat, but it's going to get Lollipop next month. So we'll see how that goes. But it's only $150, and right now for this week, it's pre-order. It'll actually go on sale next week. So for this week, for pre-orders, they knocked $50 off that. So it's only $99. So for $99, I think it's actually pretty solid. It's got a 720p 5-inch display, which looks, pretty decent for either. For $100, it looks pretty good. Pretty decent, I guess, for $150. But it's basically stock Android. I think it does actually have like that weird sort of MyUI-ish launcher that I hate. But I don't know. You could throw Nova or whatever on it, and it's fine. But yeah, it's dual SIM, so there's that. It also has an SD card slot, and it's a pretty decent phone for $99. The Life 8 XL I think pre-orders for it start July 1st. Is that right? No, they start on June 22nd. It's actually being released on July 1st. So, and it's $129, but they're also knocking $50 off it. So it's only $80 for pre-order. The pre-order week starting on June 22nd.
That's crazy.
Dude, it's
an $80 phone.
It's $80. It's got a 5.5-inch 720p display, which is pretty okay. The colors are kind of washed out, but it has decent viewing angles. It's not as bad as, it's nowhere close to as bad as what you would expect for an $80 phone.
Yeah, I mean, I could forgive a lot of problems for an $80 brand new unlocked phone.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest drawback is that it only has 1 gig of RAM and it doesn't have LTE. So that, I mean, I guess that's 2. But it's got the same MediaTek octa-core processor that's in the Vivo Air and the Selfie, and it's a pretty damn decent processor. It's as fast as a Snapdragon 800. So for $80, I mean, it's pretty kick-ass. It also ships with KitKat, but Lollipop is coming later this year. Not sure when. It has 8 gigs of internal storage, but it does have an SD card slot. It's also dual SIM, and it does have a removable battery. It's a 2,920 milliamp battery. So, all in all, it's a little ugly though. Honestly, I don't really like how it looks. The bottom bezel is really long because it has this weird design where the back plate that you can pull off. I think I already put it back. I don't know what I did with it. You can pull it off, and it kind of hooks around. So you slide it off. I don't know. It's just kind of weird. It's really boring looking, in my opinion. It's very squared off. That back piece is kind of weird because it wraps around the front. But again, I mean, for the first week, it's only $80, and even at $130, it's not bad. But for $80, I mean, it's definitely the best sub $100 phone that you can buy.
Yeah, man. I mean, at that price, it's almost like worth to get as a backup phone or something. Or if you if you're waiting for a new device to come out and you want to just like sell your current one, you can just buy one of these for $80 and use for a while until you want to buy a new phone for real.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I used. Considering it only has 1 gig of RAM and it has that MediaTek octa-core processor, it's basically, I mean, the guts are essentially the same as the Vivo Air, which I used the Vivo Air for like 3 or 4 months. Maybe it wasn't that long. Maybe it was more like 2 or 3 months before I went back to the Moto X, and I didn't have any issues using it at all. The processor was fast enough. I think KitKat has excellent memory management, so even the 1 gigabyte of RAM wasn't. I mean, like I've said a million times on this show, I have more problems with 2 gigs of RAM on Lollipop than I ever did with 1 gig of RAM on KitKat. So I do worry about all of these phones that Blue has released this year, how they're going to do when they get KitKat with only 1 gig of RAM. I just don't think it's going to be. I don't know.
Have they said, are they going like right to 5.1 or?
They haven't said.
I imagine. I mean, I imagine.
Will they update the phones?
Well, yeah. I mean, they've already announced updates for these phones. So I don't imagine they're going to go straight to 5.1. Believe me, I have discussed this with them and told them that they really need to go straight to 5.1 because that's what the Android One phones are running, so they have to run better on lower-end hardware. I don't know if they're actually going to do that or not, though. I would be really surprised if they do, honestly. I bet since they've been working on it, they've probably been working on these updates for a while, especially... I know that the Life 1 was delayed for some reason. Anyway, they've probably been working on all their Lollipop updates for a while, so I bet they're all going to be 5.0. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. 5.1 would be nice, though, on these. Nicer, anyway.
All right. Sounds good. Let's move on to app updates. All right, so our app news comes from an unlikely source this week. The folks over at WWDC at Apple have announced that there will be an Android app available for Apple Music, and well, that's all they really said. I think we're working on finding out some more details about when it might be there, but it's coming, right, David?
Yeah, Apple's. This seems like Apple's nuclear music option that they're finally laying out here and doing on every platform and just trying to take over the world for subscription music services, which we'll see what happens there. The pricing, some people have said, is not super competitive at $9.99 a month for individual subscribers, but it's $14.99 a month for up to 6 people on a family plan, and that kicks everybody's butt because most subscription services don't even have a family plan aside from Spotify, which is way more expensive. So I think Apple may have a bigger leg up here than people are saying at the moment. The Android app will come out this fall. The OS X, iOS, and Windows apps come out June 30th, but the Android app is at a later date because Apple, and probably because, I mean, it's probably not even Apple developing the app. They're probably farming it out to somebody else. So who knows how terrible it could be or how good it could be. I mean, maybe they'll pick a good third-party developer that doesn't suck. But this wouldn't be technically Apple's first Android app that isn't like a switch to Apple app. The Beats Music app previously, they bought Beats, but the app was already out at that point. So Apple kept updating it though, or Beats kept updating it, whatever the situation was. The family plan thing, I think, for Apple Music is going to be a big sell. The catalog is probably also going to be a big sell. We'll see how they compete against Spotify, but I'm pretty sure they'll probably demolish Google Play Music for catalog selection and for probably catalog cleanliness, because the Google Play Music catalog is a quagmire of evil. In terms of, like, if you just want to get an art, like if you say play the Beatles on Google Play Music, it'll like start playing an interview with John Lennon.
Yeah, well, I mean, they don't even.
Yeah, they don't have the Beatles.
Apple
yeah.
has the exclusivity on.
So Google Play, Apple. Not that Apple's music discovery is good either. I don't think anybody really has great music discovery right now. But we'll see what happens. I'm definitely curious to try it out. They're going to give a 3-month subscription to everybody to try it out initially when you sign up. And the pricing will be $9.99 for individuals, $14.99 a month for families, and there will be a locker-style upload system, apparently. I think what they mean by this is if you have music in your iTunes, you can play it in Apple Music. I'm not sure if it means like you can just go willy-nilly and upload all of your songs to Apple Music. That's not clear just yet. Won't be on Android until this fall, which could mean as late, obviously, as mid-December. So we'll see what happens. And also, the country selection is huge. It's over 100 countries at launch for Apple Music, which is like I think multiple times more than Google Play Music currently supports.
I thought you were just touting their country western selection. I'm glad to hear that's not the case.
Oh, there'll also be live radio stations that are probably going to be dumb and nobody will listen to. So there's that.
They spent like 30 minutes in the keynote talking about them, though.
Yeah, and it's like, do they actually expect people will listen to this stuff? I'm not optimistic about that.
All right, well, that's going to about wrap it up. Let's move on to voicemails.
Yeah, we had an interesting voicemail this week. You remember last week we asked a question about unattended entry to apartment buildings by using automated actions on the phone, and we had a listener that came up with what we think may be a creative solution, so let's take a listen.
I have an answer to the question you guys had this week about the voicemail box. I did it many years ago with a good old-fashioned answering machine. The number 9 is just the tone. So if you record a message with that tone and then you direct, your voicemail box or your door box to that, automatically answer with that message, it'll play back the tone. Google Voice could do this, but many voicemail systems will do it also. Cool. Bye.
So what do we think? Does it work?
Did you try it, David?
I'm gonna guess this. Well, I remember when we got this voicemail, I was like, "Oh Jesus, I heard this years and years ago." I'm gonna guess people have been doing this for a long time, but yeah, it should work. I've heard of people doing this, and once I heard that voicemail, I was like, "Oh yeah, that is a thing." It's a very analog approach, but it's one that should work fine. So just record the sound of the dial tone on your voicemail, and voila.
Voila.
Unless you've got some kind of crazy digital secure entry, building control, and then maybe it won't work. But if it's an old school one, I'm sure it'll work fine.
Awesome.
All right, so a couple of contests going on the website right now. First of all, there's a giveaway international variety for a Tilt 4.8 amp ribbon car charger. That's from Tilt and Android Police. Also, there's a giveaway international for 100 AirDroid Premium membership codes. AirDroid, of course, remote tool to allow you to manage and even view your device if you're rooted. And then finally, 2 Alcatel One Touch Idle 3 phones up for grabs. That is, of course, a U.S.-only giveaway. So if you're interested in any of those, head on over to androidpolice.com/contests. And, well, before we roll that outro, I think we would be remiss if we didn't thank our sponsor, Simple, the online banking solution, for sponsoring us this week. David, you want to say anything about Simple before we head out?
Absolutely. Amongst all of our technical difficulties this evening, we kind of forgot to do our intro and outro roles for Simple. We want to thank Simple, who do online banking, for sponsoring the show this week. Simple is a great service if you want to manage your money online in a much smarter way. One of my favorite things about Simple, now that I've been using it, is when I go to the grocery store and use my Simple card, I have my Android Wear Watch with me, and I get a notification from Simple, like within 3 seconds of swiping the card and the purchase going through, that I spent money at the store, and then I can see what it's categorized as and the total, which to me is living in the future. And I'm going to guess Wells Fargo doesn't do that. So yeah, it's one of my it's a cool service, and you should go check them out at simple.com/AndroidPolice, and just by going to that URL, you'll help support the show.
All right. Thank you, David, and thank you, Simple, for helping us out. Bob, would you like to cue the outro, sir?
Sweet Jesus, yes. Well, I hope you enjoyed the show. As always, send your feedback to podcast@androidpolice.com. You can also call us at 530-HELLO-AP. That's 530-435-5627. Find us on Twitter at Android Police, Google+, and Facebook.
Okay, was the audio usable on your end for this one, or should I send you the file?
It was a little choppy at the beginning, so if you could send me the file, that'd be great. I'll just use it at the beginning, but probably, I don't know, 5 minutes in, it evened out. So, good.
Yeah,
okay,
so
I'm going to skip out of here and
well.
export the file.
Oh, it's turning into crap.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's really great.
Timing.
All right. Well, yeah.
All right,
I'm gonna
Thanks.
depart now because
Gents.
it's late.
Yeah. I'm also gonna go. So, deuces.
Oh, we're getting crushed, Bob.
I can't stop the podcast.